You're listening to the Flex Success podcast, where we teach you how to be less shit.
I'm your co-host Lizzy, and this is Dean. We'll be covering all topics relating to health, fitness, and bodybuilding.
Join us as we use our in the trenches experience and up-to-date science to provide you with information that you can actually use.
If you like what we do, be sure to give us a like, follow, share, and tag us on social media.
Flex Success listeners, we are back yet again, another podcast today, joined by co-host Lizzy and IFBB Pro, Mr. Debut, Tom Stanley. Mate, welcome.
Thank you for having me once again. Very, very excited to be back.
I think the last time we had you on the podcast actually was after you won your pro card, and we had a bit of a pro roundtable, I think it was.
Yeah, with Matt.
Yeah, so it's come full circle. We got your thoughts then, and now we're going to get your thoughts on how you're going since the debut as you sit there in America. I think you're in Texas, Dallas, Texas, correct?
Yes, yeah, we're just having a little pit stop over in Dallas in between shows. And so far so good. I can't say I could have picked a better spot to kind of not really relax, but just to enjoy the bodybuilding lifestyle in between shows.
Yeah.
For the listeners, maybe you can give us a timeline of like where you're at since winning your pro card and maybe the last show of this season before I assume you go back into another growth season. There's been shows before this and one more to go?
Yeah. Well, I turned pro, I think it was October 2023. So we had like a 15-ish month off season. Started prep, what was it? Feb, maybe? Feb, about 19 weeks ago. And I've been in America for, it's been 3 weeks now. We arrived in San Fran, did some stuff with some family, and then went from San Fran to Reno. Obviously competed there at the Legion. And then we had Oklahoma 1 week later, and now there's a 2-week break in between Oklahoma and Alabama. So that's obviously why we're just chilling out at Dallas. And had to take a bus down from Tulsa to Dallas, which was very interesting. The bus smelled like piss, and you pay a premium price for a very poor service. I saw the price of the bus and I was like, oh, it'll be decent quality then. You know, it was pretty ghetto.
One of those.
What price are we talking for a bus ticket one way?
Oh, including baggage, because we do have a reasonable amount of luggage. I think it was for 2 people, it was over $100. It was 150 to 200.
Yeah.
Yeah. English prices. So Tom, now that you've competed as an amateur and now also as a pro, I'm really curious to know how that differs. And I mean the preps, but I also mean how it functions for you backstage. Is it any different? How do you feel? Do you feel any different?
Yeah, so the short answer to that would be nothing changes, because being functioning as a bodybuilder before I turned pro is exactly the same right now. It's been exactly the same during this prep. But the actual show day experience itself is very, very different. They kind of look after you as if you're a bit of a celebrity, which is really cool. If you use someone, they will help you. The support that I got backstage just from other athletes was really cool as well. I think at that point, a lot of these guys have been doing this for years and years, and they know what you've had to do to get to get to where you are now. And they just put their arm around you. Even Andy, who's younger than me, this was his second competitive season as a pro. And, from the first conversation I had with him at Athletes Check-In for Legion, he was, super welcoming, super helpful, friendly. I struck up a really good friendship with him straight off the bat. And then there was Kirk, who I met at Legion as well. And Kirk and Andy both did Legion and Oklahoma. Kirk got 3rd at Legion. And he actually took me out for dinner after Oklahoma. And he's retired now. So that was pretty cool, to be, taken out for dinner after you've decided to retire. And I was like, why me? But just to go back to the question, the way that I approached this prep was exactly the same way that I approached the prep for when I eventually turned pro. Nothing really changed. And in a way, having less pressure on me to do well was kind of nice, because there was little to no expectation on me from others going into the pro debut. Like, you obviously get people saying some pretty crazy, outlandish things, and I never believe them until it actually happens. But it really is the same. The only thing that changes is the experience on the day for me, and the way that they treat the athletes. It's like I said, it's a bit of a celebrity status, and these guys have obviously worked very hard to get to where they are, and we're all backstage looking after each other, and the camaraderie and the sportsmanship was like phenomenal. So yeah, there was no like saltiness or ego or anything like that, which is what I have experienced and I have seen at an amateur scale for sure.
Were you privy to many of the open guys in the Legion show, and did you notice a difference between the interactions of the open guys and the classic guys?
I didn't, but I have heard that it is quite different, and I've even spoken to like tanning people and just people involved in the industry, and they all love the classic division, because I think for some reason it seems to attract nicer individuals. I know that men's physique apparently can be a little bit like cliquey as well. And yeah, I've been told that open bodybuilding it's one or the other. Like, they're either really big friendly giants, or they kind of keep to themselves, and yeah, it's hard to get anything out of them. But yeah, I have heard that it's quite different, and classic for some reason seems to be a nice kind of middle ground, and it's the nice division for sure.
Any theories, both of you, on why you think there seems to be a different attitude between divisions?
Well, I think for men's physique, it's a bit more like, how do I say, it's more like superficial in a way.
I think it's very image driven.
It's
Yeah,
bodybuilding.
it's more model. It's more like model-y.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I think like even the attractiveness of the individual in men's physique has kind of been pushed a little bit harder.
Oh, so you're talking about like bikini girls versus bodybuilding kind of thing.
Kind of thing. Like it's not as much about the muscle as total muscle as much as it is about the look being quite pretty and aesthetic.
The whole package.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, there's certainly a lot more makeup wearing in men's physique than there is in any other division that I'm seeing. Facial makeup, that is.
What other makeup is there?
I mean, there have been people that have tried to cheat with like airbrushed abs and stuff,
Oh yeah, right. Do you think anybody's ever like put a sock down their posing trunks?
I don't know. Well, I'm going to say no, because at that point in time, when you're that lean and tight,
you don't care.
Right? Yeah.
There's always one though. There's always one.
Are you that one, Tom? No. If I was to come up with a guess, I would say that there's probably more mental health issues in the opens, in that it attracts the individual who is either like isolated and really like suffers in silence and uses pain to drive progress and
David Goggins.
Stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that aligns with that personality, and I think also classic by default of how it's been pitched is a little bit more artistic. So it's got individuals who maybe have a little bit more like personality and flair to them, and they're not trying to play the size game as much. So it's not about like who's the biggest, but rather who's the best.
Okay, so you're saying it comes, just so I'm understanding what you're saying, the difference in attitude might come down to bodybuilders are in it for the love of bodybuilding, therefore they're more supportive of the community, whereas other categories are in it more for like some sort of personal benefit, some beauty.
No, I think the vainness that is associated with men's physique comes with a level of arrogance.
Okay.
And I think with arrogance comes competitiveness and less camaraderie, because they think they're generally the best and they want to like prove everyone wrong. I think the bigger bodybuilders, like open men's bodybuilding, there's just maybe a lot more isolated individuals, and also because they're just trying to be as big as possible. It's a competition of size as much as it's like condition and all the rest of it, but size is a massive thing for open bodybuilders, where it's not for classics. A combo of everything. So I just think they have more well-rounded personalities and maybe more well-rounded physiques.
I guess we'll never know. It seems like an impossible thing to test, doesn't it?
Well, they say that classic is supposed to be like the epitome of balance, so maybe you're right. Balanced in more ways than one.
My experience coaching classic typically comes with far more understanding individuals, less pressure on the look, less concern about running flat. Like, they're not as concerned about being as big as possible. They just want there's the personalities that are associated with classic guys kind of aligns with the backstage experience, I think.
Okay, radio. Tom, I'm curious to know on this point how you manage comparison in such a visual sport?
In terms of,
like when you're
comparing me to other athletes?
Yeah, like are you scrolling Instagram and you're seeing someone that just looks amazing? Maybe they're filtered in excellent lighting and you're like, oh shit, like I'm not going to do so well up against this person, or this body part is lagging in me.
I was actually speaking to Hannah about this yesterday. Like, I struggle to be objective when it's for myself. Like, I'm obviously a coach myself, and I can look at physiques objectively and break them down and compare them quite easily. But when I'm looking at myself and when I'm comparing, like, for example, on the weekend, Andy, myself, and Dom, I was like, I mean, to be fair as well, it's apples and oranges, three completely different looking physiques. And I actually was going into finals thinking that they had Dom in front, and I was told afterwards by the judge that it was actually no, it was me and Andy that he really wanted to look at. It was for him, it was clear 1 and 2. But that was also just based on the fact that they kept moving us around so much and we had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
But just to go back to your question, like there's been numerous times where I'm looking at people backstage, so it doesn't even have to be scrolling social media, and I'm looking at most of these guys because they're not small, and I'm like, how the fuck am I to you? You are ginormous, you know? So that's why when I get off stage, one of the first things I want to do after hugging my missus, of course, is is have a look at the photos, because I'm like, did I just get second? Like, is that justified? Like, what the fuck just happened? You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, when I look at the photos, I can see why I was placed where I was placed. But for me, as far as like just controlling my emotions, I try and ignore and avoid looking at other athletes' profiles as much as possible in the lead up to the show. I'm someone who typically functions better when the pressure is off and I'm not, pitting myself up against each other, against other athletes, and trying to nitpick at my own physique and compare and go, oh, this dude's got bigger arms than me. This guy's wider than me. This guy's got a fuller chest than me. Like that does not help in any way, shape. Myself anyway. I know that some like to do that sort of stuff and it kind of spurs them on, but for me, I just like to stay in my lane, focus on what I can control, because otherwise it gets very messy. Yeah.
How you manage that then coming into the third show? Because I imagine the first show, the goal was first call out, which you obliterated. And then you may have thought it was a bit of a lucky win, so to speak. But then second show, you got the exact same place. You've gotten second in both of your two first shows. Now entering into the third show, how do you find the pressure now, or is there any additional pressure moving into the third show, having been so successful in your first two, where you went into it with the hope to obviously get a first call out, but you obliterated that and got second and second. So is there additional expectations now coming into the third, or how are you managing
it? Yes and no. In a way, the pressure's off because I've already exceeded my own expectations. So anything that happens beyond this point is just a bonus. And I thought about this yesterday. At the end of the day, I would still prefer to be the chase and the chaser, if that makes sense. Because if you're the one that people are chasing, that means you're obviously doing something right. So if you're the favorite or one of the favorites going into a show, that means you're doing something right and that you should do well. And I would rather be that person than somebody who nobody's talking about, you know. Honestly, and going into another show with obviously the end goal, which is to qualify for the Olympia, my headspace is basically that if I win, I deserve to compete at the Olympia. If I don't win, then I'm not ready yet, and that's fine. We'll come back again in a year or two and we'll try again. But I'm not. I don't think I'm going to be that sort of person to just keep chasing the Olympia qualification and go, pick another show and just keep pushing for it because I'm already ahead of my trajectory and what I was expecting and hoping for in this season anyway. So for me, nobody can take those 2 second place finishes away. They're already there, cemented in history. So whatever happens in the last show, so be it.
I think that's a really good attitude to take. I didn't even have to coach him into it either.
He was born with it.
Yeah, well, I've always been that person that almost needs people to tell me, like, you should have higher standards, you should have higher goals, you should set, bigger goals, bigger dreams. Like I've always kind of gone for the low hanging fruit at times, and I've needed that validation and that justification to kind of set bigger goals. I'm very much a let's just put one foot in front of the other foot kind of mentality, which obviously I've had to change because you do have, there is an element of ambition that's required if you want to make it to the top and if you want to be good at something. So I have had to change that. But as long as I'm improving and I'm moving in the right direction in, you know, all aspects of life, that's the most important thing for me.
That surprises me to hear a little bit, Tom, because for somebody who hasn't set really ambitious goals, you've done much, much better than most bodybuilders. You've done really well. I wonder, because you did mention that you don't work well under pressure, that you prefer to have the pressure off and just do your best, and that's where you thrive. And maybe that's your secret sauce by accident. Like you haven't had this pressure because your ambitions haven't been, you know, to reach for the stars. And that's kind of where you thrive without the pressure. So I don't know, maybe stick with that. Something's working.
Well, I was chatting to a couple of the boys backstage and I said to them that the situation that makes me the most nervous is actually going out and doing my individual routine. And they're like, oh, that's awesome because you're not even judged on that anyway. So when I go out there for comparisons, I'm like, for me, it feels like I'm walking out onto a sporting field and I'm, you know, I'm about to play a game of football or whatever. It's like we're going out to battle, we're going out to war, you know, like that's the sort of stuff that I thrive in, which is obviously what you're judged on at the end of the day. So that works very well for me as an advantage. Once I get that routine out of the way, I'm like, sweet, pressure's off. Let's go out there, hit some poses, work for it, and then we'll see what happens. You know?
That does work for you. What is it about the routine that makes you nervous?
I'm just not a very artistic, flamboyant person. You should see me on the dance floor. It's absolutely horrendous. Can barely put one foot in front of the other, like doing struggling with like a two-step, and my girlfriend's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So, you know, it was, yeah, was it Daniel Coffin, the posing coach? He put up a reel the other day, like admiring my posing, and I found that just crazy. And I've had, you know, heaps of people message me saying, do you do posing coaching? Your posing is very good. And I'm like, really? Like I just hit the mandatories good enough in my opinion, and there's still a handful of things that can be a lot better, you know. So I think, yeah, I think my posing can still improve for sure.
I wonder if this all comes down to a little bit of like your attitude to just putting one foot in front of the other, though, because there's a lot of people that speak a lot, and I think they try and speak their they try to speak into existence what they don't do in action. Like they have this overconfidence, but not a lot of action to support it. And then the same with posing routines, they throw all of this flair into it, but like they can't even hit the majors first. Whereas you just really just focus on doing the stuff that makes the most amount of an impact on you as a bodybuilder. And then it so happens, not by surprise, that when you do that repeatedly, it works out positively.
Yeah, I mean, I would still like to be good enough at posing on the fly where I can just walk out and bang out a routine without doing any practice whatsoever. And it, you know, appears as though I've practiced this and it, you know, it looks like I've actually planned this out. But and I think I'll probably get to that point because I just hate practicing routines. I just don't have any enjoyment in doing them. I nail it. And, so good at hitting mandatories and variations of classic poses where I can just, like I said, walk out, pick a song, and then just post that music and just practice as if I'm, or just imagine that I'm posing in front of my mates. And then, you know, it's just a bit of fun at the end of the day. And that way I won't have to worry about it, which I think that'll probably be me next prep with enough practice put into my posing the off season and just practicing somewhat artistic transitions so I can just throw something together, pick a song, and that way I don't have to waste my time practicing a routine that's not even judged at the end of the day because it is just for entertainment purpose, really.
I think it's so crazy how many people don't spend time doing this and they get on stage after so much sacrifice, so much blood, sweat, and tears to get there, and then they can't present their physique because they haven't done what you're doing, which is constantly practicing your mandatories and doing them well. It blows my mind.
Well, I mean, there was a Spanish guy, I can't remember his name, who competed at the Oklahoma show.
Was it probably Jose or Carlos?
No, it actually isn't. I can't remember. It's quite a unique name. And he competed at Poland.
Miguel.
He actually was next to you, I think, in the first call out.
Yeah.
He would have won Poland and beaten Jaman, I'll call him Jaman for the English speakers here, he would have beaten him if he posed better, like easily, if you ask me. But he has a couple of shots in his mandatories and compulsories that he just hits really unusually, and they cost him a ton of size. It's crazy. I don't know how somebody hasn't, or maybe I shouldn't say that, because I've tried to work with people too that are completely incompetent at posing, no matter what you say. But it makes a massive difference, man. You know, focus on the things that have the biggest impact, which is what you're doing. So, is there anything else? So you mentioned posing. What else do you think that you could do better between, like, you know, the show's finishing now and this season and the next time we get on stage?
Well, I think because I'm so like broad through the shoulder blades and through the clavicles, there's a lot of real estate there that still needs to be filled out, in my opinion. So just, you know, strictly speaking from a muscle building point of view, we know that we need more chest and we know that we need more back thickness. So those are going to be a couple of areas that we'll need to bring up. I think, interestingly, I always thought that my adductors were like really good. They're okay now. You know, when I see on a pro stage and compare myself to bigger guys, I'm like, the adductors could actually come up as well. So I think quad sweep and adductors will need to come up. And I was actually really impressed with my arms. I thought they held up really nicely on stage. I was very self-conscious going into the pro debut, thinking that I was going to have stringy looking arms, but they actually held up quite well. So just a continuation of the things that we've already been doing, but, you know, a bit more emphasis on bringing up that quad sweep, bringing up the adductors, I think would help just to finish off the lower half. I think the hamstrings, you know, they can always come up for sure, but they're pretty balanced. Just need to make sure those glutes don't get any bigger, you know, because that was the one bit of feedback that we received after Legion, which was just mid-back detail. And obviously we made a couple of tweaks to the way that I hit that rear double from a posing standpoint, but there is obviously still the opportunity for us to put on a little bit more tissue through that area, which, you know, we'll just have that, give the illusion of the muscle kind of pushing harder against the skin. So it therefore is a little bit more detailed, a little bit more dense, because it looks at times a little smooth. And I think that was probably because I was almost opening my back up too much. And like I said, there's so much real estate there. When you open it up fully, it can kind of appear a little smooth. So yeah, there's obviously some size that we can add on. And I think we're going into these shows like relatively filled and obviously eating 3 to 4 meals before check-in. So I think we can, you know, if we needed to, we could put on 2 to 3 kilos quite comfortably, you know, minimum. So yeah, just get bigger.
Basically, you gave the answer of everybody. Everything needs to be bigger.
I'm great, but just more of me. As I am, but more.
But it does get to be a little bit more refined, you know, like when you're close to a classic cap, you can't afford to be adding size onto areas that are already more or less complete, you know. Like if I'm training like a numpty and my glutes continue to grow, I'm not going to be fitting into that weight cap and it's not going to look good. So I just have to be very careful with the way that I'm.
Yeah, you'll also have to learn how to dance because they'll be getting you for booty film.
Yeah.
You know.
How big does your butt get in off season? Are you like going up 2 pant sizes?
I like to wear loose fitting pants, let's just say, like the oversized look, the wide bottom pants, and just wear a belt if I need to, because my waist is still relatively small in the off season. My fucking glutes are so big that it's tight around the butt and then loose around the waist. So
if only there was wellness for men.
But yes.
Yeah, what are those jeans that women used to buy that fit the booty?
Oh, they're called Freddy jeans?
Yeah, those.
Yeah. Something like that. So
I hate jeans for that reason. It's hot.
you know, Dean's recently discovered his former love of G-Star jeans, which are 7% elastane. And I must say, excellent for the person with some junk in their trunk.
And smaller waist. Yeah, such good pants, man.
7%. All right. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, most
2% is standard.
Yeah.
So they got some extra stretch in them, you know. You can bound upstairs with complete confidence.
Lots of room for activities in these jeans. So Tom, the US, you are in a different country, a different apartment, different supermarkets around you. You still need to keep a really tight routine. You are in prep. And it's not just like the routine is breakfast, lunch, and dinner, protein in every meal. It's pretty strict. How are you going about your routine now that you're in a different place? Your training, your sleep, your food, your spicy sups, your regular sups. How's all that going?
Well, what I would say about the US is that everything is highly available from a food standpoint anyway.
Okay.
Like you walk into a grocery store and there's just an overabundance of literally everything. So it's a bodybuilder's dream. You've got egg whites, fucking left, right, and center. You've got all the cereals in the world. You've got 10 different flavors of rice cakes. So from a food standpoint, it's a bodybuilder's dream and it's fantastic. Supplements have been a little bit of a headache. I was basically supplement free, you could say, for I think it was an entire week. I think I flew in on a Thursday, and then the first show was not that Saturday, but the following Saturday, and I didn't receive my supplements until the following Thursday, basically. So 2 days before the show, which was a little bit of a headache and stressed me out probably more than it should have. And Dean had to call me to calm me down, which was helpful.
Oh, Dean.
Thanks, Dad.
Because in the grand scheme of things, like, it wasn't really a big deal, but when you're right at the end of prep, any small deviation from what you deem to be considered perfect is like, it's a car crash. And I had like a legit anxiety attack, and Hannah had to like have a very stern conversation with me and pull my head in, which was very much appreciated. And it certainly helped. And then obviously I had the chat with Dean, and that helped as well. But yeah, we sorted that out. That situation was resolved, and it's all been fine since. But as far as competing in the US is concerned, it's fantastic. I think the treatment of the athletes over here is really good. There's a lot of just bodybuilding fans as well. Like, if you go into a gym and people recognize that you're a bodybuilder, like, people are not scared to walk up to you to say, wow, dude, looking awesome. Like, what are you doing here? Where are you from? Like, obviously they love the Australian accent, so that helps. But yeah, I've been very impressed with competing in the US, and I think initially it was always a goal of mine to make my debut in the US, and then maybe look to, detour into Europe or Asia. But like, yeah, I really love it here. So I don't know what I'm going to do next time around. I'm sure I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I'm always looking for opportunities to travel to different places, but yeah, especially Oklahoma, like that show it was like a family atmosphere backstage. So anybody out there who's looking to compete in the US, if the show in Oklahoma in Tulsa lines up with your schedule, would highly recommend, because Eileen puts on like the best ever show, looks after the athletes. I got a shield, which is just insane. I'll see if I can pull it up.
I'm wondering how you're going to get that home.
Oh my gosh. For those just listening, we should describe this thing. It looks about 15 kilos. I don't know how heavy it is.
It's a medieval shield.
It's white with a red cross on it, and then this like golden plaque in front of it. It's actually really pretty. It looks legit.
It's top quality. Like, it will not flatten in the suitcase, I don't think.
How will you get it?
It's going straight home to the pill room.
Well, look, we have 46 kilos each on the way back. I'm more worried about getting from state to state domestically. So getting home, I think if we need to just buy another suitcase, we'll be fine. But yeah, going up to New York after this little trip here will be interesting. I don't know what we're going to do. We might just have to throw out some stuff that we deem surplus to requirements. But
I want to hear more about this supplement disaster and okay, so I imagine that it was really stressful because there was nothing you could do, and feeling helpless, especially so close to a show, wouldn't be a very nice feeling. Maybe the message here is, how might one listening to the podcast avoid this situation if they were traveling for a show and needing to get, like, talking cryptically, some chili supplements?
Well, I mean, legally it's very difficult. I think actually probably what a better message is that a short period of time without any kind of like anabolics actually won't really have a tremendous effect on the look. Over the course of probably 7 to 10 days, I think you could go without and see no negative effect, except for maybe fullness. Mm-hmm. So if you're someone that suffers from fullness, that may be a problem. One of the advantages, I suppose, of like most.
I am.
Yeah, so but I mean, like, one of the advantages of the models that we use is that the model that I stick to most of the time from an injectable perspective is long-ested. So long-ested drugs are going to be in the system for quite a substantial amount of time. Those you could probably go without for 2 to 3 weeks. If you were heavily reliant upon orals, or you were heavily reliant upon SEO, or heavily reliant upon like things like ancillaries like heavy dose growth hormone or heavy dose insulin to try and sustain the look, then those are all going to become problematic because acutely they'll shift the look very quickly. But
what are we talking, like a couple of days?
Yeah, probably like I would say on average, like 3 to 4 days, you'll see a change, a visual change. You'll notice a significant change after probably 7 days on all of those sorts of things.
Were these the subs that Tom was?
No, and that's the advantage is that the baseline approach was taken like a very stable, predictable, not immediately affected acutely if something changes, a supplement protocol to the point where he was fine at that point in time. I will say, admittedly, like we have seen a little tick up in fullness since, like it kicked back in, and I imagine even just like things like energy and stuff like that are better. That's probably one of the biggest downsides is the shift in that hormonal profile will start to affect sleep and stress and your management of even things like anxieties, and that's when those things could really cause some problems. So my advice would be is if the hormones are not available for a period of time, the worst thing you can do is stress about it because the stress itself will cause more damage than the hormones not being in.
Okay, well, you try to tell a stressed person not to be stressed in.
Yeah, it's easy. You just say, don't be stressed, and then you leave them to their own demise.
That's their fault.
No, I think this is when you need to be objective.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like, what in particular is causing this stress? And then we kind of just narrow it down and discuss each individual aspect to that. And it was still stressful, but after having a proper conversation and realizing that it's probably not going to make or break my appearance on stage, and also just keeping in mind as well, like you said, if you're using longer esters, 1 week is almost definitely not going to hurt. 2 to 3 would, like that's where we're starting to expect some, like you said, major hormone fluctuations. I think 1 week is probably okay, and I didn't really experience any crazy fluctuations, but as we've obviously seen this week, a little bit of an uptick in fullness after the return of the injectables over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, but customs can't test for orals, can they? You can just...
No, I mean, like technically, if we give people advice, if you have things not in containers that don't say what they are, that would probably be advisable. Orals aren't tested for inside airports in regards to like the same test they do for bombs and amphetamines and MDMA and all that kind of stuff.
So if they ask you, you can say vitamins.
Yeah, you can be smart about how you distribute your stuff around. Injectables, though, I would say come with an inherent risk no matter where you are. Because even in a country where, say, steroids are considered to not be illegal for personal use, like the United Kingdom, which you are allowed to possess them, you still can't import them into the country.
No.
So the importation rules still exist. So,
Yeah.
My advice would be actually be friends with lots of people in as many places as you can so that you can lean on people, because that's the best approach.
How many people have had supplies on the other side of their trip that have fallen through? Like, have a backup plan would probably be my advice.
100%, yeah.
Oh, like even people you think you're really good friends with are reliable people.
Always,
doesn't seem to work out.
I would say always, if it's possible anyway, try and get someone where they can hand you things face to face rather than relying on shipping, because that was what let me down really, was the public holiday. The shipment got delayed by a day, and then I actually moved from one Airbnb to another, so we had to detour the package, which then arrived at an Airbnb that didn't have a proper letterbox or mailbox or any way for me to actually access this package. So it then got pushed back again because I had to go to the post office to pick it up. But yeah, if you can source something whereby that person can give it to you face to face, that's obviously the safest method. And
I think contingency
now
plans,
I know people.
Yeah, contingency plans are always the best option. It's the same as with food. Like I might say to Tom, hey, tomorrow I think I'm going to have you eat this. He's like, oh, well, I'm traveling tomorrow, so can we have the plan put in place? Yeah, sure we can. But like, what's the solution if he wakes up and he like needs more food? The contingency plan is that you're going to keep a packet of rice cakes on you. It's the same as when you're going to stage. Like, you'll always have some extras. Unfortunately, it will sometimes come at a financial cost. Like, we might send Tom off to a show and say, hey, I want you to have 2 liters of Gatorade available and like 2 packets of rice cakes and all this sort of shit. And then he gets there and I'm like, that looks awesome. You're not eating any of it. And that means it's wasted money. Like, yeah. Unfortunately, that sometimes is the cost of I suppose, the mental.
I think you could probably find a homeless person.
Yeah, you can give it to someone.
Yeah.
If in doubt, just give it to Hannah and just tell her to bulk up.
Hey, she's been eating all my rice cakes, especially now that I think you pulled them out of my meal plan. So, like, babe, all the rice cake can be yours until I need them again.
Lucky her. All right, Tom. I'm aware of the time, so we might have to wrap it up. I have a would you rather for you, or we're going to do the 10 rapid fires.
I don't know if we have the 10 rapid fires on hand, do we?
Oh, we can edit out this pause and I can find them really quickly.
I can remember some of them.
All right, let's just make them up.
Let's just make 10 rapid fire questions. All right.
Okay.
Tom, nut butter, crunchy or smooth?
Smooth.
Oof. Toilet paper, fold or scrunch?
Fold.
Nipples too big or too small?
On himself or a female?
On himself.
Too small. Too small.
Having to sit next to a noisy nose breather or a noisy eater?
Noisy nose. I'd say nose breather. Yeah.
4 fingers or 6?
4.
6. Shoes too big or too small?
Too big. Because then you can just tighten the laces up like extra tight.
Full dad laces.
A penis tattoo under your chin or a swash sticker on your shoulder?
Well, a penis tattoo under my chin would work because my beard would cover it up.
Damn it.
The testicles would be hanging out the bottom, dude.
Yeah. What's that underneath your beard? Just some balls.
Just balls. Nothing to see here.
So what's your choice?
What was the other option?
Like a Nazi symbol on your shoulder.
Oh. I'd probably still take the dick and balls on the chin.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. Personally.
I think that might be flipped.
What?
That's it. Just Tom. I think I might take dick and balls on the chin.
That's the podcast.
That's a mistake on your behalf.
Okay, would you rather a monobrow or 2 regular eyebrows that are just short by the last third?
2 short eyebrows.
Okay, yep. All right. These are definitely rogue questions.
Yeah, mustache or goatee?
Mustache. Because in classic physique, if you have a mustache, they actually judge you a little bit differently and they'll place you a little bit higher.
It's true. You've come second twice to a mustache. So.
All right. Yeah. Last one. Would you rather have a really high-pitched laugh or a snorty laugh?
I would say a snorty laugh because that makes other people laugh. But if you have a high-pitched laugh, that's just kind of annoying.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a valid reason.
Yeah.
Bravo on that one. I agree.
It's true.
My auntie has a snorty laugh and it makes me laugh every time.
Now, Tom, where might people find you?
On Instagram, Tom Stanley _IFBB Pro.
Amazing. Love it. Thank you, Tom. And we will see you guys in the next episode.